them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome everyone to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. We're live here on WYSL until 1 p.m. today. Give us a call if you want to participate in the conversation, 585-346-3000. And the topic I'm asking you, the listeners, to comment on today is, what do you expect politicians to do in a disaster? Because my news feed and on Twitter and on Facebook is filled with that dastardly man, Ted Cruz, who bailed on his state in the midst of an emergency. So I want to ask you, what do you guys expect politicians to do in the face of disaster? How should they help, if at all? And what do you expect of them? And how does their response in the face of disaster impact your perception of them, your support of them? And we'll compare a couple of different politicians here, how they respond to this thing in Texas and other things. We'll talk about Ted Cruz. We'll talk about AOC a little bit, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And we'll talk about Andrew Cuomo, who I think is instinctually very good at knowing how to respond to disasters. But we'll discuss how that has gone for him and the people of this state recently. All right, so let's talk about the Texas situation a little bit. Again, Larry and I covered this on Wednesday and Thursday. Both of us did shows on this topic, so I won't go too much more into what the situation is. The grid experienced a whole bunch of issues. Some of that is related to just weatherization, incompetence, lack of accountability, and just general disaster, right? Like, how do you prepare for an event like this? And go back and listen to the Wednesday or Thursday shows if you want to listen to that. And you can always go to our podcast, A Free Solution, look it up anywhere, listen to those shows. Larry has some great solutions. I got some stuff in there as well. But Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, he went and took a little vacation during this time. He took his family, has taken his daughters down to Cancun, and they left the state. And Ted Cruz, he'd gone with him. He said afterwards that he was intending to come back in light of the disaster. Did that afterwards. And maybe it really was. Maybe it was a pre-planned thing. And I have no idea. And they realized this happened, and Ted Cruz is like, oh, shoot, gotta get back. He and Tim O'Connor already gave me an answer. What should politicians do? They should carry boxes around and get pictures taken of themselves. Tim, you should run for office or something. You sound like a pro. And so Ted Cruz, though, he went down. He went to Cancun for a little bit. Came right back because people started roasting him. They found him on the plane. They found him at the airport. Started roasting him. He said, I was just making sure I escorted my daughters down there. I can't really blame him. Like, even if this was a spontaneous thing, and I don't fully know this, even if it was a spontaneous thing, I get the desire to get out of a state when you don't have power, you don't have water. I think a lot of residents, though, felt betrayed. Like the minimum Ted Cruz had to do was just stay there, just to look like he was suffering in solidarity with him, right? And it does look elitist to have someone leave the state in the middle of disaster. It looks like, oh, well, this suffering's for you guys. I have the ability to get out of there. I get how that looks. I get that that's not a good look. Now, I don't expect Ted Cruz to go in and help and be useful in any way. Like, the dude's a politician. He's not going to go out and fix the gas lines. It's not what happens. It's not what he's going to do. As Tim kind of joked about, what ends up happening is politicians will go to these things. They'll go hand out some things. They'll hand out supplies, hand out soups, or waters or whatever, and they'll get a few pictures. They'll do that for a couple hours, and then they're done. And that's exactly what Ted Cruz ended up doing afterwards. He went and handed out barbecue and waters and got a bunch of pictures with, local law enforcement and people getting help at a food bank. So that's what he ended up doing. I mean, that's good. It's probably what you should do in some sense if you can volunteer. Although I feel like half the time when politicians do this, it ends up becoming a spectacle about them. Like Governor Cuomo did this with, turkeys in Rochester, and politicians love doing this type of stuff. And it becomes all about them. It's all about giving glory to the politicians. Thank goodness they're doing a nice thing and handing stuff out, and it is nice. People want it. I mean, that a lot of times those supplies would have gotten out anyway, but they got to be there in the middle of it, shaking hands, looking like they're doing something to help. That's how it goes. We're paying them to do that. Just remember. And yeah, so that's what he did. He did all that after, he had this gaffe. Now, listen, when Ted Cruz did this, it's stupid. It's silly. Like he's been in this game long enough to know that a lot of people are going to be upset with him. It's not a good look to leave. Ultimately, did he actively harm anyone? No, he didn't. He didn't hurt anyone by leaving. He just looked like a selfish jerk. Which, if you didn't know that about most politicians, boy, are you in for a surprise. A lot of politicians are selfish jerks. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. They care about staying in power, and when the chips are down, they're going to do what a lot of people do. They're going to do things to protect their family. Not everyone. A lot of people in a disaster situation, they protect their family, and they also go out and they help their neighbors. They do what they can. Whenever we have a snowstorm here in the Rochester area, I can look down the street and I can see half my neighbors shoveling people they don't even know out of driveways, helping people get unstuck. That's how it works in a lot of cases, that most people are good and want to help others when there's a disaster situation. But ultimately, Ted Cruz didn't harm anyone. He just embarrassed himself. I don't care that much. This doesn't change my opinion of Ted Cruz in any way whatsoever, other than he looks like an idiot, and this will pass. What is more concerning to me is when politicians jump in and they want to act quickly in the face of disaster, and they start doing things that actively harm the people subject to their policies, harm the people of their state. And we can see that in what Governor Cuomo does, what he did in response to COVID, and what he does in response to a lot of disasters too. He wants to be seen helping. He often goes out of his way to be the guy handing out supplies and whatnot. But the policy stuff, that's the stuff that gives me pause. I'd rather politicians in many cases not act, not be drastic, not jump in and actively harm people. And they can do their thing where they're helping out, showing leadership, or whatever. I mean, they all feel self-serving to me. But they can do that thing, that's fine, or do nothing and just be there in solidarity. Ted Cruz didn't hurt anyone with this. Just looked dumb. Andrew Cuomo, though, Andrew Cuomo actually hurt people. And we can compare that to, like, what unique positions a politician has. And I don't mean policy position. I mean, like, what unique positions in terms of their connections do they have to help people voluntarily? How can they help get resources to a disaster area, raise awareness of what the actual needs are, and do something tangible to help folks that doesn't rely on government coercion? We have an example of that here, and it's a surprising example too. I'm gonna say the example afterwards, after this break, and you're gonna be like, oh, that person? And this is a person that I know many people listening to this station, including myself, don't particularly like, but I think this person did the right thing here. What Ted Cruz did, I don't care. I really don't. I'm not going to like him any more or less because of this. Talk about the other two responses right after the break. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. If you have any thoughts, what do you expect politicians to do during a disaster? What do you want to see them do? Does having them out helping in the face of disaster, make you like them more? Do you think it's useful? Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. We'll be back here on A Free Solution in just a few minutes.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
When you've been seriously injured in a car crash, you need a lawyer who knows how to beat the big insurance companies. Call me and I'll take them on so you can focus on your health and family.
Car crash, call Salino. Salino, call Salino. 888-2020.
Main Street, Rochester.
A message from the National Police Association. It used to be that any able-bodied person would offer to assist a police officer in danger. Now, passers-by are more likely to take a video. There's a better use for your phone when an officer's in trouble. Call 911. Tell the operator where you are and what you see. Then, start your video to provide evidence later. To learn more about how you can assist law enforcement, visit nationalpolice.org. That's nationalpolice.org.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilsh, your host today. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you being here. Again, if you have any thoughts on what you expect politicians to be doing in the face of disaster, give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. And I want to put a little asterisk on this conversation. What we expect politicians to do is in part defined by the role that they play, right? Like a county executive or a governor administrating policy in face of disaster is going to have to react a bit differently than a legislator, right? Someone who is just like in Congress or a state legislature who's making laws, like they're a bit different. Like legislatures, they react, they don't have like the immediate action sense. They're not responsible for disaster response. So obviously executive branch functions operate a bit differently than senators, members of Congress, members of the Assembly, etc. So I do want to talk about someone who did something right too, and what we see from most politicians these days. Again, they do the photo op. Occasionally they'll post things on social media, say you can find resources X, Y, and Z, which is fine. It's helpful sharing those things if someone really needs help and there's a nonprofit or whatever that's giving away food or water, whatever. That's helpful. Spreading that information, great. I have no issue with that. And Tim, one more comment from Tim says, well, let's have a libertarian box carrying photo op. I mean, honestly, that's what Republicans, Democrats do. Libertarians, like a lot of people like me, they're like, man, if you're bragging about this, it feels kind of gross. It feels self-serving. And I know a lot of libertarians, and I felt weird doing this, like bragging about the good things that I did during my campaign too. I was like, I don't want to brag about that. I'm doing this because I want to help people. I want people to think I'm doing this just because I'm trying to get in the office. I'm doing this because this is what I've always done. You know, doing things like picking up trash or volunteering places or whatever. But some voters like to see that. They like to think that that represents something about their own values, to see a politician helping out in some way. For better or worse, that's what it is. So I'll talk about a politician who did things well, though. And my surprising response is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Democratic congresswoman from New York City who was Larry's member of Congress, Larry Sharp's member of Congress, actually. But she raised, so far, $5 million to help provide, food, water, and other resources to the folks in Texas. And, here's the thing politicians are really good at. They're really good at raising money. They have a ton of connections. That's how they stay in office, is they know when to ask donors for stuff, and they just keep the whole gravy train rolling. That is one thing that our modern politicians are very, very, very good at. And to her credit, she recognized this, tapped into her networks and the networks of Democrats that she runs in circles with, and was able to raise a whole bunch of money and make Republicans look like chumps. She, and all privately too. This isn't a government-run thing. She just raised that with the help of people who gave their money voluntarily. And I think that's a wonderful thing. I'll call it out. I don't like a lot of her economic policies or a bunch of other stuff, but this is a good thing. And I think it's great if politicians are able to tap into their networks to do just that. I'd love to see more of that. And she's not the first one to do that type of thing. Obviously, politicians do this type of thing all the time. It just happens to be salient right now. She's just the one who's done it recently. But good job. Good for her. And I know a lot of conservatives and libertarians, they want to say, oh, AOC, she's so dumb, she's an idiot, whatever. She ain't. She is incredibly smart, incredibly talented. She knows how to do politics well. This was politically the best possible thing she could have done. That she looked like she, made Ted Cruz look like even more of a chump in this situation. Made the Republican Party look like chumps who are begging for help, and she went and did something about it. So when people say AOC's dumb, no, she got elected on a grassroots campaign, took out a well-entrenched Democrat, and she knows how to play the national media well. Now, that's not to say I like her policies. Her economic policies are absolutely idiotic most of the time. She has some great civil liberties policies in some cases and a few others, but her economic policies are idiotic. So when I talk about her, I'm not praising her positions. She is very good at what she does. Like, I think it's actually sort of dangerous to assume she's not that smart, because she's incredibly smart. That's how she got elected. That's how she keeps staying in the national spotlight. And we're going to see her continue to play a role in national politics because of moments like this. Because she looked at this and said, all right, what resources do I have? I have this donor network. They have their Justice Democrat network, and they have a whole bunch of other folks who care about left-wing politics. She tapped into that network, was able to raise a bunch of money, and a bunch of people kind of gave money her way. Genius, smart. And I can't be mad about that. It's the right thing to do. Republicans, libertarians, other Democrats, people in Texas, people in New York, all over the place should be doing the same thing. And many people are. They're not soaking up the national media attention for it. There's other people who have done great work in response to this disaster and in response to past disasters. They've raised money and gotten money to where it's actually needed, and we don't go through the whole rigmarole of the federal disaster relief process is the quickest way to get relief to people who need it right away. I want to see more. I want to see more politicians. This is actually what I would like to see politicians to do. I want to see them, if they're really good at raising money, like Nancy Pelosi could do this. She could do, every time there's a big disaster, every time there's a hurricane, every time there's, like the power going out in Texas, she could do this. You know why she's Speaker of the House? Because she's really good at raising money. She is excellent at that. She's donors all over the country. Instead of taking our money to fund whatever the heck she wants to fund, because half the time it's just the House and Senate leadership writing these massive budget bills to fund who the heck knows what. We don't even know. We find out months later because these are thousands of pages long. Instead of doing that and saying, we have to get $100 million to fund. There's a ridiculous one that she had the other day. It's like several $100 million or something. I'll have to look up exactly to fund like a rail line in her district. Just another massive overpriced government boondoggle in the making, I'm sure. And yeah, but she could do these things voluntarily. She doesn't have to use the coercive power of the state to. It's not even taking our money at this point. They are taking our money. Don't get me wrong, but most of it's just all debt. We're just spending it all. We're just pretending it doesn't even matter anymore. Republicans, Democrats, who cares? Just spending a massive amount of money. No regard for how that's going to impact us a few years down the line. And I'm sure that there's going to be a massive surge in spending related to this as well. And I do want to talk about, too, how President Biden responded. We're seeing some stuff come out, and I'm sorting through it a little bit. There's this response from the Department of Energy talking about whether or not Texas could turn on their gas generators. So Texas is a bit more regulated than I even realized. Of course they are, right? Because when does the federal government not regulate something? They always find a reason to do that. But they had to ask permission to turn these gas power plants on to be able to meet the energy demands of the people of Texas. And what I'm seeing from folks is this supposed scandal about the Department of Energy saying no to that. Well, that's not really true. And I'll go over in details after the break. And just to wrap up this segment, though, is that's what I want to see more politicians do. If you're a politician and you go out and you help and you're actually helpful and not just there to take a bunch of stupid pictures. I've seen that stuff, like the type of person who shows up for 5 minutes, shakes hands with people and hands out like 3 boxes of water and then leaves. Give me a break. What are you doing? You look like a clown. I hate that stuff. I lose respect for politicians who do that. If you're actually there, you're helping for like 5 hours or something, great. Good for you. You have my respect. That's awesome. Keep doing that. Or if you know how to raise money, awesome. Or if you're hanging back, you're going to get in the way if you show up, because a lot of times, especially the more famous you are, the more you're going to get in the way because everyone's going to be around you, talking to you, press is going to be there, it's going to be a mess. And you know that the best thing you can do is to sit back, direct people to the right resources, do whatever. Fine. That's neutral to me. You're not in the way. Just probably don't do what Ted Cruz does. He didn't hurt anyone, but don't do what Ted Cruz does. Or don't actively hurt people with stupid policies. That's the number one job, right? It's like you make the policies. Don't hurt people with stupid policies. See that with Jones Act in Puerto Rico when they got hit by the hurricane. Trump temporarily pulled. And we see that with Governor Cuomo and how he responded to COVID. Actively hurt people because he wanted to look like he was doing something. Wanted to look like he was a hero. And now we're finally seeing in the national media, New York media knew about it a little bit, but we're finally seeing a reckoning for his absolute disaster of response to COVID as it relates to deaths in nursing homes. All right, so thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We'll talk a little bit more about the national response after the break, and then we're going to talk about Governor Cuomo. All right, we'll be back in just a few minutes. If you want to participate in the discussion, I'll give you the number, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. More from A Free Solution in just a few.
Because you're not sheep. AM 1040 Avon Rochester, FM 92.1 Rochester, and FM 95.5 Spencerport.
Here's the latest forecast from the News 10 NBC Weather Center for tonight. We'll see breezy, cloudy conditions out there, maybe a snow shower towards morning. Temps down around 30 on Tuesday. A couple of snow showers. Again, just a little coating in the early part of the day. Then mostly cloudy, breezy in the 30s. On Wednesday, we'll turn a bit milder with a bit of a breeze out there. Temperatures could get up into the mid-40s for a high Wednesday afternoon. I'm Rich Cornelia, WYSL.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at Simple Tech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, Simple Tech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the Best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. Simple Tech Innovations.
Hi, Tom Hamilton here, president of Hamilton Wealth Management located in Pittsford, New York. If you have more than $250,000 in savings and investments, and you've been wondering if your investments are really being handled properly, well, then it's time to at least get a second opinion.
To meet with Mr. Hamilton, call 585-381-9870 or go to HamiltonWealthManagement.com. Advisory services offered through Wealth Plan Partners. Securities offered through Securities America, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Hamilton Wealth Management and Securities America companies are separate entities.
We're all busy, running to get the kids to practice, rushing to get dinner on the table, hurrying to meetings, the store, or getting to those endless lists of errands. That's why more and more Rochesterians are tuning in to the newscast that fits their schedule. News 10 NBC at 7. Exclusive investigations, up-to-the-minute breaking news, and of course, your first alert forecast. It's how Rochester gets caught up before the sun goes down. News 10 NBC at 7.
Mary Cariola Center would like to take this opportunity to offer gratitude on behalf of the nearly 700 employees and 600 families we serve. At Mary Cariola, we transform the lives of people with disabilities through education, residential services, therapy, and clinics. Reimbursements only cover a portion of the services we provide. The rest comes from donors like you. Visit marycariola.org to learn more and to make a generous gift. On behalf of our Cariola community, thank you.
It's time to take advantage of your life being disrupted this year by calling Lawrence Associates Insurance at 227-7500. If you're driving fewer miles or working remotely, you could be saving on your auto insurance. Did you build that new home office or take on a remodeling project while you had some downtime? Call Lawrence Associates to make sure your house is properly covered. 227-7500. Lawrence Associates, the right coverage at the right price. For all your insurance needs since 1962, call 227-7500.
An experienced professional with more than 15 years in dentistry, Dr. David Olivo welcomes new patients to his family practice at 2005 Lyle Avenue. At the office of Dr. Olivo, you'll discover a warm and comforting environment staffed by professionals who are committed to providing the best available dental care while assuring your complete comfort. Call 328-3382 for an appointment. Dr. David Olivo, offering quality dentistry with a gentle touch.
WYSL and the Roberts Wesleyan Athletic Department proudly feature the Red Hawk Report Tuesday and Thursday mornings at 8:45 and Wednesday afternoons at 4:45. Each week, the Roberts Wesleyan Athletic Department will keep you up to date on vital issues in the Rochester area's only Division II sports program. The Red Hawk Report is made possible by Golisano Children's Hospital and Heritage Christian Services. The Red Hawk Report, exclusively on your local college sports leader, WYSL 92.1 FM and 1040 AM.
A Rochester favorite since 1880, Zweigels is celebrating a milestone anniversary, serving up red hots, white hots, sausage, meatballs, and more. Zweigels, over 140 years and still popping.
How would you like it today? How do you like your Zweigels?
Remember Scotty's Detail Auto Body for all of your body paint and collision repairs. And also remember, it's still the collision shop of your choice during that unfortunate time. Scotty's Detail Auto Body, Route 15 East Avon, just a quarter mile north of I-390, exit 9.
A free solution.
Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host for today. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you joining us on this show today. We are here live on WYSL until 1 p.m., so you can give us a call and participate in the conversation. Chat with me. What do you expect politicians to do in face of disaster? Give us a call, 585-346-3000. That's 585-346-3000. Or chat in online. We're live on A Free Solution, the Facebook page, A Free Solution, the YouTube channel, or the Kevin Wilson pages as well. I'm on there too, for now. And also shout out down the line to our friends over at WACK out in New York and WENY, the Patriot down the southern tier. Thank you for listening. Appreciate y'all being here. All right, so we're talking about what do we expect politicians to do in face of disaster? And part of this came up, too. I was reading about this story the other day that a handful of folks are bringing to my attention, and I appreciate that. And so the state of Texas has their own grid. We talked about this on Wednesday. And they do still have some accountability to the federal government, right? I mean, really accountability. No one's really accountable in these systems most of the time, but they do have to talk to the federal government if they want to do certain things. So what was happening as this whole disaster was starting to unfold is that the state of Texas said, okay, we can't meet the power generation demand right now. They're having issues with turbines. They were having issues with, there's a nuclear power plant that lost some of its capacity. There was natural gas that lost a ton of capacity. And so they wanted some plants to be able to increase their capacity to be able to meet the rest of that demand. So they asked the Department of Energy to do this. The reason they have to do this, the best I can understand too, and if anyone else is an expert on this stuff, call in 585-346-3000. But what I understood from this is because of emissions restrictions on this type of stuff, the state is limited in how much it's able to put out, right? So they have to ask the Department of Energy for some reason for a special permission to be able to increase their output because they're going to be polluting more because of that, right? So kind of this notion that Texas is fully independent is even less true than I thought. I thought it actually had more independence than this, but the more I'm reading about it, the more I'm seeing like, well, they still got to follow all of this stuff, including, again, asking permission to be able to meet the energy demands of their state, which is kind of silly to me. Like, why can't, if you have your own grid, like, why can't you just do that? I mean, I get externalities, right? Like if you're putting out actual emissions that are going to impact the states around you, you got to have a way to deal with that. Sure, but this is an emergency situation. They want to do that. So the story I keep seeing going around, though, is that the Department of Energy denied them permission to do that. It's not quite true. They said that they could do it, that they were able to increase their natural gas power generation. They ran into some issues with that anyway because, again, the issue with the natural gas was under normal circumstances, you can increase capacity. You can just burn more to meet demand. But they had two issues. One is that pipes are freezing. Two is that the power companies didn't expect to need all that gas because there's not that much of a heat demand either. So other people were trying to buy natural gas for heat or increase their electricity usage. So the grid wasn't ready to be able to get all that supply. So there are other issues besides this. But they did say, the federal government did say, yes, you can do this. There's a letter I shared in the comments. If you go to a Free Solution or YouTube or the Kevin Wilson page, you can see the letter I'm talking about in the comments, and a thread that's very critical of the Biden administration relating to this. It doesn't look like they said no, but what they did set this like weird price minimum that I don't quite get why they had to do that. They had to, the extra electricity that they generated on top of what they normally had as a cap had to be sold at a minimum of $1,500 per megawatt hour. I don't know why they did that. I don't know if that's some federal law or something, but that wasn't the price that ended up getting sold anyway. In a lot of areas, it ended up being way higher than that. So they went like the utilities there just way exceeded what this was. And I just bring all this up because I've seen it start to come up a bunch, and I think it's interesting, and we're going to sort through all this stuff. But it's not... There's a lot going on here. There's a bunch of stuff that the Biden administration could have done. I've also seen, like, the Biden administration didn't declare an emergency. They did, but they only did it for 77 counties instead of all the counties in Texas, which the state of Texas wanted. They wanted to be able to do that stuff. So it is interesting. At least I think so. The federal government response to this was okay. What I don't get is, like, I go back to root issues, right? Like, why in an emergency situation should you have to ask permission to be able to do this? People are freezing. I don't want to be holding on to beg the Biden administration or any administration. Could be Trump too. Could have been Trump, back then. Why should you have to beg any administration to be able to provide power to the people of your state? That's ridiculous. You should just be able to do your thing. You have this legal power source. Just make sure people don't freeze to death. Do whatever you can. Again, this wasn't the only barrier. People were presenting this as like, look, the Biden administration caused this. No, they didn't. Biden administration does, and I'm sure we'll be doing a bunch of stuff, but I'm not going to play that game. I'm not going to do the everything the Biden administration does is bad type of thing. It's going to be so much more boring than that. Most of the stuff that the Biden administration does isn't going to be the headline-filling stuff that, President Trump would do, where he would say something stupid and people would blow that out of proportion, make a big deal. I didn't do that with him, or at least didn't do it most of the times unless I thought it was actually serious. And I'm not going to do that with Biden either, because a lot of the stuff that he does, it's going to be more like something that sounds really reasonable in the short term until it's actually not. That sounds reasonable to most people. The people like us who aren't paying attention, it's going to sound fine. With something like this isn't Biden. This is the entrenched bureaucracy. Deep state sounds conspiratorial, but this is the entrenched bureaucracy of all the rules that have accumulated over the decades to come to this situation that slows down the process of being able to get power to people when they need it. Again, wasn't their only problem. But the bigger issue isn't the Biden administration or the Trump administration or the Obama administration. It's that we've collected all these rules over time. And we haven't begun a process of, or at least haven't done enough to begin a process of tearing apart these rules in situations that don't make sense, that make it harder for state, federal, local governments to respond effectively to disaster. And that's a hard, boring policy work that doesn't make for a great, entertaining radio show, but it is the stuff that does need to happen eventually. And it's going to take a while. That's what it is. It's not sexy work. It's not good being in front of the camera work. And I did promise you guys I was going to talk about Governor Cuomo. And I saved that for the last segment. I hope you stuck with me for this long, but I do want to talk about Governor Cuomo because he's finally maybe getting held accountable. I want to read a statement from the state Democratic Party and just talk about how he responded to things. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. If you want to participate in the conversation, give us a call, 585-346-3000, 585-346-3000. We'll be back with more from A Free Solution in a few minutes.
Why do businesses choose to move their website from Wix and Squarespace to SimpleTech Innovations? Maybe it's their excellent customer service or attention to detail. Maybe it's their ability to give a truly customized solution. Or perhaps they just like the fact that SimpleTech is a local small business that builds great relationships with its clients. Whatever the reason may be, you can rest assured knowing that the local team at SimpleTech has your best interest in mind when building or updating your website. They're hands-on and love helping customers achieve their goals. But don't take my word for it. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. If your website doesn't match your dreams or isn't achieving your goals, give the professionals at SimpleTech Innovations a call today for a consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
Hi, my name is Ryan Bourne.
And I'm Danica Bourne.
And we're the owners of South Coast Tax. We would like to thank our Lord for protecting us from evil. Psalm 91 states, "He is my refuge and my fortress, for he will rescue us from every trap and protect us from deadly disease."
South Coast Tax are Christian-based tax accountants and attorneys who specialize in releasing bank levies, wage garnishments, and filing complex tax returns. We are the leaders in acceptance of offers and compromise with awesome results.
We are also a small firm who will treat you like family and not just a number.
Call us today at 1-800-TAX-1176 for a free consultation, and we'll take the time to explain all of the programs that you qualify for in order to allow you a fresh start.
In John 8:36, so if the Son sets you free, you will be free indeed. And one way we can achieve that is by being debt-free. So let us help you today. Call us at 1-800-TAX-1176, and together we can help achieve this goal by putting the IRS tax debt behind you for good. Again, that number is 1-800-TAX-1176.
Your business relies on computers and technology to operate. Slow, unreliable networks and servers can cause unplanned downtime and affect your bottom line. The experts at SimpleTech Innovations are here to help. Their preventative maintenance program ensures that your computers and network are kept up to date and monitored for any issues, keeping your business running smoothly. They also help clients achieve HIPAA, PCI, and New York State cybersecurity compliance to keep your network safe and secure. Whatever your business IT needs are, SimpleTech Innovations should be your first call. They've won the best in Rochester 8 years in a row and have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. Call them today for a free consultation at 585-200-3182. That's 585-200-3182. SimpleTech Innovations.
A free solution.
If you are upset by what we have done, be upset at me. County executive did not do this. The village mayor did not do this. The city mayor did not make these decisions. I made these decisions. It's not your local elected official. I know they caused disruption. I know people are upset. I know businesses will be hurt by this.
As you wish, Your Majesty. We will cast the blame on you. He did make these decisions. And, you know, it's weird because I've seen this comparison between, like, Ted Cruz and Governor Cuomo. And as I indicated at the beginning, it's like what Ted Cruz did was stupid. It was a gaffe. Ultimately, he didn't hurt anyone other than himself in that situation. He could have helped, but he didn't hurt anyone. There's a difference. These are not comparable scandals. No one died because of Ted Cruz in this situation. I think it's gross to compare the two because what Governor Cuomo did is he wanted to look like the hero in the disaster. He wanted to look like he was taking decisive action. Wrote a book about it. Wanted to look good. And early on, when he made the decision to put COVID-positive people into nursing homes, a lot of people correctly pointed out right away that that was going to have devastating results. We exposed a vulnerable population to this. Instead of coming clean, looking at what happened, making sure that anyone was held accountable, He doubled down, obscured the numbers, made it difficult for even people within his own party to look at what actually happened and try to respond better, more effectively. So, I do want to read there's an interesting resolution that came out, and I'm hoping that it seems like it's legit. So looking around this resolution, it's a proposed resolution for the New York State Democratic Committee, and I read this because it's pretty good, and the New York State Democrats are starting to see Cuomo as a liability. There was this era of party loyalty for a long time, and they're starting to see, maybe cynically, but maybe it's they really want to do the right thing, like I hope they would when we start talking about this last week. Well, we started talking about this months ago, but finally they're maybe doing something about it. So they have a resolution to censure Governor Cuomo. Now, what they should do is not censure. I don't care about censuring. I mean, it's you're yelling at him, I guess, but they should impeach him and at least take away his emergency powers. But let me read the censure this proposed resolution for censure. Whereas for over a year, our state has been in the grips of a once-in-a-century public health emergency and economic crisis, whereas Governor Cuomo sought and was given unprecedented, virtually absolute control over the statewide response to these dual crises. Whereas, as a result of an advisory from the Cuomo administration to nursing home dated March 25th, 2020, more than 6,000 COVID-19 positive patients were admitted to nursing homes in New York, whereas more than 12,000 patients at New York nursing homes died of COVID-19, whereas the Cuomo administration undercounted the total in public reporting by 50%, was only revealed after an investigation by Attorney General Letitia James. Whereas Governor Cuomo placed in the 2021 budget provision to protect nursing home and hospital executives from liability for poor decisions during the COVID-19 pandemic, except in the very difficult-to-prove case of gross negligence. Whereas the Cuomo administration repeatedly stymied and refused to comply with requests for information regarding COVID-19 and nursing homes from the New York State Senate and Assembly. Whereas the Cuomo administration admitted to legislators that its lack of cooperation with the aforementioned information request was due to fear of political accountability from the public and legal accountability due to an investigation by the United States Department of Justice. Whereas Governor Cuomo himself has personally and inappropriately threatened members of the legislature with retribution if they did not cease examining the nursing home tragedy and working towards accountability. Whereas due to this entire ordeal, Governor Cuomo has never taken responsibility for his administration's order of March 25th, 2020, and its results, and instead sought to deceive the public, the legislature, and U.S. DOJ, and framed the issue as one of partisan politics rather than genuine concern. Whereas during this entire ordeal, where the governor claims to have not had time and human resources to comply with requests for information, the governor did have time to write a book congratulating himself for New York's COVID-19 response, have a self-congratulatory poster created and circulated before the worst of the pandemic was over, and have a COVID-19 mountain sculpture made to celebrate New York defeating COVID-19 prior to the worst of the pandemic hitting the state. Therefore, be it resolved that the State Committee of Democratic Party of the State of New York do hereby censure Governor Andrew Cuomo and further demand that he cease his belligerent conduct, cooperate openly with all investigations, and make a full apology to the people of the State of New York. And then there's 11 members of the State Democratic Committee that supposedly signed on to this. So they should pass. I mean, this is a solid start. They outlined the issue pretty well here. This is his own party. I mean, Tim says, don't forget to give us crazy libertarians credit for saying the obvious truth. Yeah, we've been talking about this since April. We've been talking about this forever. Been talking about this for months. I'm glad the Democratic Party is catching up. Or it's become so much of a political liability now that they have to take a stand. Better late than never, I suppose. But I almost forgot how wild, like the book thing, right? He got the book, he got the Emmy. The stupid posters, the stupid bizarre posters that he made. Remember the ship one and the weird little mountain one too? And the giant mountain Jabba the Hutt thing that he made while this was all going on, while he was hiding stuff from the public, from investigators. He had the resource to be able to do all that, to showboat and brag about how great he was. And what's wild to me is that Governor Cuomo knows how to do this well. He generally knows what he's doing, but he overplayed his hand. He knows that a lot of people I don't like it, but a lot of people like politicians to be out in the front addressing disaster. The best thing you can do is just swamp people with press. He did those press conferences every single day to show that he was acting in response to COVID-19, that he was at the forefront of taking action. But the action that he was taking, at least in this case, was actively harmful. He made things worse. Resulted in people dying, it seems. And there's going to be an investigation on all that, but that's what it looks like. And no accountability at all. Finally getting that. And Democrats, and I know some of you listen to this station, you need to wake up. You need to pay attention to what's going on here. Don't back this guy. Don't do the same thing you accused Republicans of doing when Trump did something dumb. Because he did, and I'd say it. But Governor Cuomo has made these awful, awful policies. And the majority of Democrats are still backing him. They still think he did a great job. Are you not paying attention, or do you just not care? You don't have to back this guy, no matter what. Get away from the team sports. Doesn't matter. People's lives are at stake. If Governor Cuomo is going to make mistakes like this and try to cover them up, and you're still going to back him, I don't know what I can do for you. Don't do that. The health of our state, the health of our republic, the health of just the people who are living in nursing homes. I have family who are in rehab facilities too. That they matter. Governor Cuomo needs to be held accountable for this. Politically and any other way that makes sense. Possibly criminally, we'll see. We'll see where this goes. You can't play team sport. I hope the Biden administration does do it. I'm glad that the Democrats in New York State are probably, after being bullied and badgered enough by Governor Cuomo, are getting sick of this. That's been the norm for politics. We've all known about that forever. We're just now talking about that. But if you've lived in New York State and you've known about politics, you've known about this type of stuff forever. Time to do something about it, Democrats. Time to pick someone else. Time to ask your legislators to keep Governor Cuomo accountable, not just a slap on the wrist. Impeach the guy. Get him out of there. Or at least, take away his executive authority. There's a bill to do that. It's basically useless right now. Got to do better. There's a bill to do that, and they're like, oh, the governor can act and someone can rescind those orders within 72 hours and there's a panel intend to do that. No, just go back to the normal governing process. Hold Governor Cuomo accountable. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We'll be back. I'll be back on Wednesday. Larry Sharp will be on tomorrow. Talk to you then.